Welcome to Livingston, our podcast where we invite local businesses, people, and organizations to talk about what they are giving to our community.
As real estate professionals with the Putkela Group, we bring valuable insight into the local market and community every week.
Thanks for listening,
and
welcome to Livingston. Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Welcome to Livingston podcast. My name is Don Putkela.
And I'm Angela Putkela, and we're with the Putkela Group Real Estate Professionals. And this podcast has been brought to you by Lake Michigan Credit Union and Jim Piquette, and we appreciate their support.
Yes, and today we are really excited. We have a local Brighton business that's just been around forever in with us today. So today we have the Brighton Tux Shop and Chris Yockey with us today. So we're so happy to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate being on the show. I love this.
Welcome. Well, and it's really interesting because I know when I think about tuxedos and to get them in town, I mean, you guys are just a mainstay. So can you tell us a little bit about how long you guys have been in business and what is it that you do?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been in business since 1977, so it's been a hot minute to say the very least, right? Don't see that very often.
Yeah, no, That's really neat.
So we do a lot of mostly just formal wear. We're not really a true clothier shop, if that makes sense. We stick to just purely men's formal wear and fashion, so suits, tuxedos.
Especially as kids get older, there's so many different events between prom and weddings and that call for the formal wear.
That's true, yeah. Proms and weddings are definitely our two biggest parts of our business. We do other small things as well, black tie events. There's the Detroit Auto Show, the charity preview night. That's also a pretty big thing that we do as well. But really, proms and weddings are our mainstay.
Right. Well, you guys being around for so long, I mean, for listeners that grew up in Livingston County, Howell, or Brighton, odds are if they, went to prom, the guys, they may have gotten a tux from you guys to rent as their first time ever wearing that.
Yes, actually. In fact, we have some really interesting circumstances where we will have like grandparents who got tuxedos from us back in the late 70s, and now I'm doing their grandchildren's prom tuxedos.
Wow.
So sometimes they come in together and they say, yeah, I got a tuxedo here when I got married back, almost 50 years ago. And we say, yeah, well, we would have been here 50 years ago. So
that's true, because 1977, you guys will be celebrating your 50th year next year.
Yes, we will be.
That's really exciting. Not many businesses can say that.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know if you have any specific plans, but it'd be kind of exciting to find out if you end up doing some special things for the 50th year or anything.
We've talked about it. That's definitely true. I've thought about maybe inviting the original proprietor, Grandpa B, as a lot of people like to call him, to see if maybe he'll come down. But we'll see. I mean, he's not a young spring chicken anymore, so
Yeah.
I don't want to pull him away from his Florida golf games and such, right?
That's true. But I bet you there's some cool things you could do. Time to think about it, right?
Yep.
But now where is the shop located? Because you do have a physical brick and mortar location, right?
We do, yes. Tuxedos is one of those things that you got to be in person. You got to see body shape and size, so people come to us. We are located on 8692 West Grand River, so that's just down the road from where we are, actually. Right next to Myers in Brighton. There's the Gus's Pizza Carryout. Those two locations people know typically, so that's our landmarks, if you will.
Right. So, and I was going to ask, so I actually rented a tux from there, I think like 2001, 2002. I was standing up in a wedding. So I've actually had a tux from your shop, and our older son got his for his high school prom. And then, we have one that's getting one this year that's actually wearing one of your guys' tuxes to preview it at the high school.
Yeah, which we can get into that.
Yeah, but how does the process work for somebody that a lot of people nowadays, the young people, they don't even own a suit. So they've never gone through this process before. How does the process work for somebody?
Oh, that's a great question. And I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty here for just a bit, so bear with me. But that's true. Most people have no idea how to wear a suit, what's supposed to fit the right way on them, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of education that we have to bring to the table as we're talking about styling as well, right? So when it comes to our end of the business, we actually have a warehouse, and they go and buy styles for rental, right? And then we can order in specifically what we need, so I can get very specific about waist sizes and coat sizes and that kind of stuff. So, we're not trying to sacrifice fit just for convenience sake, right? So we order in through this warehouse for any of the rentals that we need. So if you come to me and say, I need a tuxedo for this weekend, right? Well, then I go and I place my order. We get you measured up. You'll try on some stuff just to make sure that we know what we're kind of going for in terms of how it looks on you, right?
Yeah.
But then the tuxedo gets brought in. We have our alterations process that we have to go through still. And not every tuxedo off the rack is going to fit you perfectly, right? So usually some minor adjustments are made. At that point, you come back and you try it on, make sure that it fits the way that it's supposed to before you just take it out the door with you. So we typically see our customers twice, hopefully just twice, not more than that. That's always the game plan. Now, if you're buying one, though, that's a completely different process. We actually get our tuxedos and suits directly from the designer. So most of our stuff is made to what we ask for it, and it gets brought in. And then, of course, we still want to do some sort of tweaking, alterations, that kind of stuff, because every body type is totally different. No two people are the exact same. And at that point, you come in, you try it on. We talk about fit. We talk about, how it lays on you. A purchase can be very specific on what you want done to it. So however far you want to take it for alterations is fine by us. This is your stuff. You can do whatever you like with it. But typically it takes about 2 or 3 visits for that to be fully finished before you can take it with you at that point.
That seems like a great idea for if someone has several occasions to need to rent a tux. Because remember, we have our friend Craig, who we've known forever, but I remember
He owns a tux.
He made sure to own a tux. It's come in handy.
Yeah, he
over the
does singing. So he'll
yeah.
do chamber singing periodically. So he has a tux.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's different occasions people don't really realize and probably don't know where to begin. So it's helpful to know that you guys have those available.
That is true, yes. And honestly, there's not very many professions out there in the world anymore that you are required to wear a tuxedo constantly for, right? Musicians are one of those few industries for that. So every now and then we get somebody like that. But most of the time, for most people, a rental is perfectly sufficient because it's a one-off thing. We won't see you back for 5 or 6 years, probably.
Yeah,
right.
And your shape may change in that time.
Yeah, that's the problem with that. We all grow a little bit,
Right. Right. Now, I know there's a ton of different styles for tuxedos. What are you seeing now with the people coming in for weddings or young people? What's the popular go-to right now?
Oh, so black is still mostly the predominant color. Now, 2 years ago, black was actually under 50% for us in terms of rentals.
Wow.
So amazingly, it was not the number one color. Blue was. Blue was the number one color 2 years ago. Now, last year, that switched back to black again. So that was a very short-lived trend right there, or at least in terms of, number one color. We still see a lot of black tuxedos. It's just the classic style, and it's a very easy kind of color to do anything with, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to go wrong with a black tux. But that being said, we see more colors nowadays than we have since, 1977. We see a lot of earth tones, especially for fall weddings, browns, greens, a lot of tan. We have been doing a lot of tan right now. We still see a lot of blue, and gray is not as popular as it used to be, but we still see some people wearing gray tuxedos as well.
And when you say blue, you're kind of referring to kind of that dark navy blue, not like the powder blue that maybe in the 70s they had, right?
Sure, yeah. Yes, navy is more popular. That being said, we have a powder blue, we have a slate blue, which is like a blue-gray kind of a color. And we've had some weddings that have been doing that. it's less powder blue and it's more like a cornflower, if that
Okay.
makes
Got
sense.
you.
So like
Yeah.
spring weddings, that's a pretty good color.
You're not getting the wedding singers type with the ruffle shirt and everything.
Oh
though?
yeah.
Now, is there still like the cummerbund, or is it vests, or like what?
So vests and suspenders
Okay.
seem to be the two predominant kind of things for underneath the jacket, right?
Yeah.
We don't see cummerbunds ever.
I've just dated myself now, right?
I don't think
Sorry.
most people knew what that was.
Old people like us
rolled
do,
up.
though, right?
Yeah, we won't talk about what time frame that was popular,
Yes.
right?
Right.
This
Right.
is a safe place.
Yeah. So are people still doing like tails?
So not as much, unless
did
you've
it
got
yourself.
something. Yeah. Unless you got something very specific that requires a tailcoat. I think I can probably count on one hand how many times I did a tailcoat last year.
Okay.
So it's mostly what we call just dinner jackets, like a traditional like suit kind of jacket style. That's mostly what we see.
Got
Most
you.
people like that.
Yes. So for our wedding, we had the English morning one, like the longer
yeah.
one,
Yeah, morning coat.
a morning coat, which I thought
Yeah.
was very cool.
Was it double-breasted? I'm trying to remember.
I cannot remember, but I remember it was a morning coat for our prom.
It's been like 25 years.
So really dating ourselves for
Yeah.
our prom, I had tails.
Yeah.
And then for a few different ones we did a lot of weddings back. We got married in 2000. So, you probably see people that like, you saw them for the wedding and then you see them for 2 or 3 different times that they're groomsmen in different weddings.
Correct. Yes, yeah. There's usually like that friend group, right? You see all the friend group within like 3 or 4 years of each other, then they're gone.
Yeah.
Don't see them until they're like parents and they have children getting their prom tuxedo. you
Got
know?
ya.
That's funny.
And we always love it whenever someone comes in and goes, "Hey, remember me?" And that was like 20 years ago. And I'm like, "No, I don't remember you."
Got ya.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Now, back to the proms and whatnot, you do some really cool things. And Don had mentioned that our son Colin is going to be an ambassador for you guys. And I was so impressed at it because he did let me come along. I know most parents don't, but I felt very special. But so I got to kind of hear all about it, and it was really neat. Do you want to speak to that?
Sure. It's something that we've done for a long time. We call them our prom reps or prom influencers. It's kind of a give and take on that part. But what we have the kids do for prom is that they can wear a tuxedo, something that we provide for them. They wear it to school, and it helps promote us, as well as it really gets the boys thinking like, oh yeah, prom's around the corner. Probably should be thinking about my prom tuxedo. We've learned that if we don't get this in their heads early enough, they'll show up like a couple days beforehand. We don't need that kind of stress.
Yeah. Nobody does, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we try to do it about a month beforehand. Gets them thinking. We usually see them a week or 2 after that. But like I said, it gets the ball rolling, right? So they wear these tuxedos to school. They hand out some prom coupons that we're going to have for these prom reps. It's a $50 off coupon, by the way. And then their friends can come in, right? They order their tuxedos. Now, the one thing that we actually did not talk about with your son there, because this doesn't actually affect him directly, but the kids who come in afterwards, right, after the prom reps have done their thing, they actually can do something similar for themselves, where we give them a stack of referral cards, and they can hand those referral cards out to their friends. So it kind of like, goes down the line situation. And every time that they refer a buddy to us, they get $20 off on their rental. So if they refer an extra 5 friends, and who doesn't have 5 friends, right?
Yeah.
That's $100 off of their tuxedo rental. So
Right.
it helps them out, and it helps us to get more kids in the door, right?
Yeah.
So it's a win-win situation.
Yeah. In terms of everybody, it really creates some buzz and
It does, yeah.
and fun to see the boys. And that was something that I was kind of hoping that Colin would have a chance to do. And lo and behold, he came home and he said, "Mom, you're not going to believe it. I got invited to be the tux guy." I'm like, yay!
Yes, that's what we want.
He's looking forward to it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's very cool.
But it was neat because there were so many different styles. And, at least we let you know that he's a fun guy because you guys picked out something really fun for him. So I know he is so excited about getting to wear this. And then he'll get to pick out a tux of his own for prom later. So that'll be fun.
It'll be a lot of fun. Yep. So, and I was looking on your website. So back to groomsmen,
Right.
And I noticed you guys had like a form for someone to fill out, because a lot of times a groomsman is picked and they're out of state and they're not showing up till, 2 days before the wedding.
Right.
Right. So how does that process work?
Oh, that's a big question we get a lot from our brides and grooms, because every wedding party's got at least one guy who's out of town, right? And like I mentioned at the beginning here, tuxedos need to be in person, right?
Yeah.
So how do you do that for a guy who's not living in the state, or even who lives in the Upper Peninsula, right? Michigan is such a big state after all. Well, we have basically it's understood amongst all tux shops across the nation that we all deal with this problem, right? So you can ask to get measured at a place close to you. So if you live in California, go to the tux shop in your little hometown, or a suit shop or alteration shop, or whoever it is that does the formal wear close to you, right? And like you said, the form on our website, you can actually, it's a PDF as well, so you can print it off and take it with you. You walk into that place and you just say, hey, I got a wedding. It's not here. It's, it's out of state. It's in Michigan. I need to get these measurements, please. And they will do it no problem for you. We do that all the time when it comes to people who are here, who are going to Tennessee, or they're going to New York or wherever, right? Just past Saturday, we had 3 guys came in who all needed to get measurements done for some wedding that they were going for out of state. Now, once that guy has those measurements done, he can go back onto our website. He just fills it all in. He hits submit. We take care of it. And then he comes in close to the wedding. And typically, rehearsals are like a day or two beforehand. So he's going to be here at least a day or two before the wedding, right?
Right.
And he comes over to us and we put on the tuxedo or suit. I should say suit as well, because we do a lot of suits for weddings as well. We make sure that the measurements he gave us is accurate. Now, sometimes that's not always the case, right?
Right.
So sometimes we need to make some adjustments, but that's why we have a sewing machine in the store. So
Got you.
if somebody puts on their pants and the pants are 2 inches too short, I got you. Give me 5 minutes. I'll go fix that real quick.
Nice.
So, but I assume if someone's in town, say a month before or a month and a half before, and they know they have a wedding coming up, just stop in and get measured in person then?
That's right. Yeah. In fact, actually, ideally, it's always best if they get measured at the store. We know what we're fitting for. We know how it's going to kind of be on the person, so we can try on stuff. It's usually a lot more accurate that way. But push come to shove, don't sweat it. You can still get measured somewhere else, send me the measurements. We can make do with that. We do it all the time.
Wonderful.
Excellent. That's nice that there's that culture
Right.
in your industry, The interesting part is we talk a lot about suits and tuxedos. What's the difference between them?
Oh, yes. So another one of those education things, right? A question we oftentimes get is, I don't know the difference between a suit and a tux. Help me out here, right? And so realistically speaking, I kind of wish I had an actual tuxedo here so you can see it, but that's okay. So a tuxedo has satin. That's kind of the big deal between a suit and a tux when you're looking at it. The satin is on the lapel, which is on the front of the jacket, right, close to where the collar is. There's satin finished buttons, and there's a satin besom pocket, which is the pockets that line on the outside of the jacket. So those 3 things are the big aesthetic differences between a suit and a tux, because a suit has no satin on the lapels. It has what's called bone buttons, so they're the buttons that you can see, like the little holes, and you can see the stitching on there. And typically suits have flat pockets as well. Now, I say this, but there is lots of concepts out there that are hybrids, where they have maybe some satin on the lapel, but it has a bone button instead of a finish button. It's got flat pockets, but there's no satin on the lapel, and it has a satin finish button. There's so many different variations out there, and really, it's entirely up to the designer and his whims and however he wants to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, however they wind up designing that suit or tuxedo. But typically, 9 times out of 10, if it's got satin lapels, satin buttons, and a satin besom pocket, that's a tux.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. And that satin gives it a little bit more of a shine usually too, right?
It does. So it does dress it up, formally speaking, right? So it kind of brings it up a notch. I mean, talking about tailcoats, right? Tailcoats used to be what a tuxedo was. But since we've gone into more of the dinner jacket links, they had to do something to kind of help it more distinguish from a suit jacket, and that's kind of what they did.
Got you.
Great. Now, for those that are renting one from you, shoes. How
Shoes.
is that part of the equation there?
So shoes we actually hold in stock in the store. That's one of those things that, I can make your pants longer. I can make your sleeves shorter. I can't change your shoe size, right? So we got to have shoes in the store, right? So the shoes we hold in stock, they can rent them, they can buy them. We have both options. Typically what we do when we're talking to the bride and groom and we're talking about that first consultation, we're talking about what kind of colors they're looking for. We eventually will land on the suit or tuxedo that they've chosen, and then we say, okay, what about shoes, right? Do you need shoes from us? Are you going to wear your own shoes? Are you doing something totally different, right? And so we have that conversation. Most of the time, people like to just rent the shoes because that way it's uniform all across the board. Some brides and grooms, they don't care. So they can wear whatever shoes they want. And that's fine by us. This is your wedding. Choose what you'd like. I just want to know what the parameters are.
Right.
Yeah. Becomes a team effort then, right?
Exactly,
Just talking
yes.
through the details.
Right. So, and then how long, nowadays there's so many on location weddings, right? They're going off to Jamaica. They're headed off to, here, there, and everywhere. So how long do most normal tux rentals last? Or is it just all over the board?
It truly is all over the board. I recently did a wedding. They came in and they got fitted for it, but they were going to Italy for their wedding, and they were going to need it for 2.5 weeks, which obviously is more than just a standard weekend rental kind of a thing, right? And honestly, on a case-to-case basis is how we just purely handle that. What are your needs? How can we accommodate this? But we try to make it work as much as possible. Now, if you keep being the rental for like a month per se, okay, hold on. Let's talk about buying at that point, right? Because after a certain point in time, it's just not economical at that juncture. So,
right.
But usually, if someone needs it for a week or two, we have ways of making that work. We deal with people who go on cruises, for example, and you're going to be gone for 2 weeks. That's not unusual for us. So we have an understanding that if you're going to need it because you're traveling, that's fine. We can accommodate that, right?
So another question I had is, how often do the tuxes or suits come back and there's pieces missing, or they've split the pants, or are they getting insurance for that, or how does that work with you guys where it comes back and there's issues?
So, every weekend we've got something, right? That's just how it is, right? So the common denominator is typically the bow tie or the long tie, right? That's usually the one that goes missing. Okay. They get undressed after the wedding, and then they just throw that on a chair somewhere, and the next morning, I don't know where it went, right?
Right.
Now, we have insurance that does cover any kind of accidental damages. So if someone rips their pants, for example, that doesn't happen very often, but once in a blue moon, it does. You get a little crazy on the dance floor, and those seams they split, right?
Right.
The insurance will cover you for something like that. So not to worry, and we have ways of repairing it, and if it's not able to be repaired, it just simply is a loss at that point, right? Business expenditure, as they would say. But for losing something, that's different. We need to have all items back, even if it's damaged. So if you lose that bow tie, please go find it. If you can't find it, all right, well, we got to replace the cost of that bow tie. So you got to pay for it at that point.
Right.
But I will also say that we've had some people who have lost that bow tie, right? They paid the replacement for that bow tie, and then 3 or 4 days later, they find it. Bring it back. I'll give you your money back. I don't want your money. I want my bow tie, please. Right?
Right.
So bring the bow tie back, and then we'll refund you back that expenditure, and then everyone's happy.
Right, because you guys do cufflinks too, right?
We do, yes. Yeah, and that's another item that has it's always in the crosshairs when it comes to being damaged, right? Cufflinks are so fragile. They're just so small. It's a small little item, right?
Right.
Thin piece of metal. It doesn't take much to sometimes break them, especially if you're getting down on the dance floor. It happens. One of our guys at the shop, actually, who got married a few years ago, the little black buttons on the front of the shirt, those are called studs. His studs kept popping out while he was dancing on the floor. And so we would find him randomly, and we'd be picking him up for him, stuff like that. In the end, I think he wound up losing one, but
right. Well, that's why I think just the whole act of running a tux, especially for the high school students, right, is such a great learning experience. Because I remember with our first son, he didn't understand how to do the cufflinks, right? So, I don't know, a generational thing. I feel like when we were younger, we saw tuxedos and suits more than people do nowadays. So they had no idea how to set all of that up, and it's just such a great learning experience.
Well, we live in a much more casual world than back in our day. But I will say, back when he proposed to me, he did do it up at Mission Point Lighthouse on the beach at sunset in a tuxedo.
In a full tuxedo.
Full tuxedo. And that was a surprise because we had a suite for the hotel. So we dressed up for dinner. I was all, dressed up and whatnot. And he knocked at the door. And I'm like, okay, this is within our hotel room here. Yeah. But open it up and he's standing there in a tuxedo. And so that was definitely, very impressed with what a great touch that was and really made for a very formal evening and made it all very exciting.
You hear that, boys? That's an idea for you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, especially anyone who's, you're not getting married yet, but you want to propose. That was definitely something, because girls do like to dress up and whatnot. And, a lot of guys don't necessarily have a suit just sitting around. Right. And that's something that definitely is over and above.
Yeah. How often do you rent suits then as well then?
We do. We do both of them. We rent, we buy, and we do suits and we do tuxedos.
Yeah, so the question on that is, and again, it's a whole other end of the spectrum, but you have a lot of people that they need a suit this weekend for a funeral. A great option to be able to come in and, potentially rent something, or if you're in between sizes, someone's gained a lot of weight, lost a lot of weight, you guys are a great option to be able to come in a pinch for something like that as well.
And that's a good question, because on short notice like that, how able are you to accommodate something like this?
So actually, the funeral one is always the tough one, right? Because typically that's not something you plan for. It just simply happens, right? I mean, we've had people come and rent suits for us for job interviews before because they didn't have anything. But that's, you kind of expect, this is the day that I'm going to need it. I'll return it this day. You kind of know that stuff. But funerals can be all over the place, right? It could happen on a Monday and you need it on a Wednesday, kind of a situation. And we've been able to do that before. Typically, 24 hours notice, we can make something happen most of the time, right? Again, that's a case-to-case basis, though, right? If you come to me on a Saturday and say, I need this on a Sunday, I honestly can't help you at that point.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Because the warehouse is closed on Saturdays. I can't do anything. I can't order anything, right? But if you came to me on a Monday morning and said, I need this by Wednesday, that's something I can do, right?
Right.
So it's just ask, right? It doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to hear the word, sorry, I can't help you, right? But most of the time, they give us at least a week or two. I can make anything happen. If you need it less than a week, I can still probably make it happen. I might just be limited on options.
Right.
Right.
Still ask,
but at
please.
least come up with something. Because when my mother passed away, it was very unexpected. And I remember it didn't even occur to me to rent. And so here are these teenage boys that grew out of it in a heartbeat, right? But we're spending big bucks on buying suits for them.
Right.
And
but I would say to all of the young adults out there, once you're done growing, since you guys have suits for purchase, I think that every young man needs to own a suit.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly.
And they should come into you.
Preferably more.
And preferably more.
Yeah, but at least one.
At least one.
Because you never know when you'll be called upon to need it for a funeral, for a job interview.
Or just for a nice event. I mean, there's I mean, I still wear a suit 7 or 8 times a year, which is, but
Speaking of events, Chris, I know you mentioned about your partnership with Arc of Livingston. And so I wanted to kind of delve into that too.
Yes, that's actually one of our highlights of the year. I mean, don't get me wrong, weddings are fantastic. Prom season is always a lot of fun, but the Arc is kind of like a special place within our heart. We have been providing tuxedos for the fashion models at the Arc of Livingston since the day that they've been doing this, right? So those kids come in, and it's so fun. It's not something that they get to do on a regular basis, right? They don't get to go to normal events like most people do, and they don't get to attend a lot of different things like this. So this is their moment to shine, if you will. Yeah. And we try to live it up as much as possible for them, make it a very memorable time. And we've got some of those guys who have been with us for a long time. They've been models for the Arc of Livingston for 10, 15 years, some of them. So we've gotten to know them over the course of that time. Every year we see you, like, hey, how's it going? How's the family? How are things with your sister or whatever? Occasionally, we've even done the weddings for these people too, which has been pretty awesome. Weddings for their siblings as well, because they've gotten to know us. In fact, actually, about 2 years ago, there was one of those models for the Arc of Livingston that we wound up doing his sister's wedding. We did all the suits for their wedding. And it was just really neat because he came in and he goes, this time I'm not doing this for Arc. This time I'm doing this for my sister, So it was, you could tell that he was beyond ecstatic for something like that.
It's nice, and to help support such a great cause.
Right.
That's really nice.
Yes, the Arc of Livingston is amazing, and I love the people there too. They're incredible people to work with. We always appreciate them every year.
Yeah. So, and take it under advisement, we should have them on here.
Yes.
So I think that'll be a positive thing. There's always, as I turn something over, people know other people, and it really makes it fun.
Today's episode of the Welcome to Livingston podcast is brought to you by our valued sponsor, Jim Paquette with Lake Michigan Credit Union. He is a trusted mortgage lender who has lived and worked in our community for many years. Jim Paquette is dedicated to helping our neighbors achieve their homeownership dreams and is proud to support the local businesses that make our area special. Now let's dive back into the stories of the incredible entrepreneurs we are featuring today. Is there anything that we're missing about your shop or that just makes you guys unique?
So yes, let's talk about just a couple of things, if that's okay. Let's talk about timing, because that's always a big question people have. When do I need to come in? What do I need to do? That kind of thing, right? So I have 2 different answers for people. If you are looking to set up like your wedding and you want to know what the timeline is, honestly, any time is fine. If you're getting married in October and right now it's March, I mean, sure, why not? Come in, let's talk about stuff, right? Now, my other half of that answer is, do be aware of prom season, right? Prom season is Christmas for us, so it is what it is. There's nothing we could do about it. As much as we love prom season, it's also a bit of our headache. Prom season is only 18% of our business, but prom season lasts like a month. So imagine doing a fifth of your business in a month. It's just a lot,
Yes.
Right.
a lot of volume for customers. So, if you're getting married in August, September, October, you don't need to be a part of that, right? You don't need to be a part of the prom season rush. So
Right.
come in whenever you like. Truth be told, a couple months beforehand is kind of the average of when we see most of our weddings, up to 6 or 7 months. So somewhere in that range is kind of normal for most people to say, hey, we need to get suits figured out. We need to get tuxedos figured out, right? So 3 to 6 months, just to have an actual number on the podcast, right? 3 to 6 months is what you're looking for. Now, if you're looking to buy, though, of course, that's a different story. Sooner the better if you're looking to buy. Because like I said before, it's a different kind of process. There's usually typically multiple visits, so you want to do this sooner rather than later. If you're coming in 3 months before your wedding, just consider, the suits getting made and the alterations that you have to have. You're cutting it close, right?
Yeah,
Not to
you
say you
don't want
can't
to feel
do it.
rushed, though.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Not to say you can't do it, but we don't need the additional pressure on a special day of a wedding, which has already got a lot of pressure to it, right?
Yeah.
Now, for prom kids, timing wise, most of the time we see kids about 2 weeks before the prom, and that's totally fine. Like I said, if you give me a week's notice, I can typically make anything happen, right? I've even had prom kids come in same day. I do not encourage that. But
What's left?
what's left is exactly what it becomes.
The banana tuxedo, right? The yellow. That's what they had left.
I got one with flamingos on it. I hope you're okay with this. So, timeline wise, a few months before for a wedding, just mostly because you got to have like styles picked out, then you got to get a bunch of guys fitted. So you got to have time for that. For prom, a couple weeks beforehand is perfectly fine. Okay. Now, the other question you asked, which is what makes us different? That's actually a really good question because, in a world where the internet is at your fingertips, why go to the Brighton Tux Shop, right? Now, I'm going to answer in a couple different ways. So, number one, we have some of the most largest inventory and styles that you'll find almost anywhere. We've got a huge array of colors, lapel styles, fits, fabrics, etc. And not very many other places have that, right? They exist, right? They're out there, right? But a true formal wear shop, a true men's formal wear shop is actually a very rare breed. A lot of places are like hybrids, they do a little of this, they do a little of that. They are more of a clothier shop than they are an actual men's formal wear shop. And that's totally fine. If that's what they are, that's what they are. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But if you are looking for experts and professionals on something like men's formal wear because it's your wedding day, that's one of those things you don't want to cop out on, right? It's like a wedding dress, know? Right. You want to make sure you get the right stuff, right? And you want to make sure that it fits right. And that's another big thing, right? Does it fit right? One of our largest competitors that we have to compete with all the time is online. People want to order suits online. And the amount of times I've had to fix stuff for people who have ordered a suit online, I've lost count,
Right.
It's, like I said, it's one of those things that you need to be in person. You need to be there. You need to be able to try it on. And when you order a suit online and you bring it in, who knows what you're getting? Who knows what the sizing is really like?
Right.
It's all guesswork at that point. And with the company you're ordering from, they don't know what you look like. They have no idea. They have no idea that maybe you've got a bit of a beer belly, right? Maybe you've got skinnier legs. Maybe you are an ex-football player and you have huge legs, right? You can give a height and a weight, and you could not know any of that information. And that's kind of a thing that we've had to combat, is educating people on the fact of like, hey, don't mess around with this, right?
Yeah.
You need to be there. We need to be able to put some stuff on you, trust us. We know what we're doing, right?
Right.
So, if we're guiding you through the process and tell you, like, yes, this suit can fit you because I'm literally looking at you. I know this. That's okay. But if you're not there in person, it can be a little dicey trying to order your suit and then trying to make it fit to you, right?
Right. Well, because by the time you need a suit or tuxedo, it's usually for a special event. And the last thing you want is for it to make you look bad or not look nice on you.
Yes.
You really want to look.
Well, there is a huge difference between a fitted suit and one that's off the rack.
Right.
It is, the same person night and day on how good they look when it's been fitted and custom to them.
Yes, so true. And I've actually experienced that firsthand. I had a groom during 2020 when COVID hit, right? And everyone had quarantine and lockdown. I had a groom, he was getting married, and he was worried that he wasn't going to be able to go to like a place to actually order a suit. So he ordered one online. And it came in, and this was like beginning of June when he got this suit. And he put it on, he goes, this just doesn't feel right, right? And see, that's one of those things, right? Something off the rack, you put it on, and sure, maybe you fit into it, but does it feel right? There's a difference, right? So he actually brought the suit to us and put it on, and he goes, I don't know, it just feels off. And I'm like, yes, it is. It's off, right? The waist is too big, your coat's too big, the shoulders are fine, but the silhouette of the coat is too big. What do you want me to do with this? And so we had to have a whole conversation about, does he want to keep this? Does he not? Right? But if he had never come in, I would have never known. And he would have just worn that to his wedding day. And that would have been every one of his wedding pictures, right?
Oh.
He would have had that suit that just doesn't feel right to him.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want. Not on your wedding day, right?
Yeah.
The last thing you want is to be thinking about, man, I wish I had done something different. That's a big regret that we want to try to avoid.
Right. Because anything on your person is really going to have the most impact. If you need to cut corners at a wedding, do it in the centerpieces because nobody's going to care.
Right.
But don't cut the corners on what you're wearing.
Exactly.
Especially the ladies spend so much on their wedding dresses.
I was going to ask about that. How many, grooms come in with their bride to have them,
to pick it out.
to pick it out?
Right, yeah. So I'll answer this way, okay? Whenever I have a groom who comes in without the bride, he 100% of the time has come back with the bride. So
There you go.
to be fair, you can know a lot of things about the wedding that you're being prepared for, but there's certain details that I have to ask the bride. One of which is wedding dress color. Is her wedding dress white? Is it off-white? Because that makes a difference in your shirt color. Because if she has a white dress and you don't have a white shirt on, you'll see it. But the exact opposite is true too. If you have a white dress shirt on and her dress is like ivory or cream or eggshell or something else, right?
Yeah.
You see that in pictures. And then now her dress looks dirty and dingy. And she will remind you of that for the rest of your life.
That's
Right.
a great point. Because there's all those questions you got to ask that people don't realize need to be discussed.
Well,
Right.
like even, the tie or, the pocket handkerchief, like I know ours match the color of the bridesmaids' dresses.
Yeah.
So you want that all, like, it's so important. The pictures are what's important,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
Devils in the
yes.
details.
Yeah, the cohesion that you're trying to pull all together, right? You want to make sure that at the end of the day that this looked like the way that you planned for it, right? The last thing you want is for, to look at somebody or to look at something in the wedding and you think, why did we do that? Who is this? Why is he wearing this? Those kind of questions, right?
Right.
You don't want it to look like a mistake.
Right.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
So
It's a big event.
No, this is just amazing because it lets people know, you guys are the experts, right? How important it is to not be clicking online and to be talking to somebody that knows the right questions to be asking you because you have no idea what you're missing. You're like, hey, I thought I clicked all the right things, but I didn't know that there was a box there that needed to be checked that I didn't even know to ask the question about.
Or
Right.
that even there's boxes, there aren't boxes there that should be, right? Because you're not going to get the same level of quality from something online as you are in person.
The amount of times that I get a groom where I'm like, okay, let's talk about shirt color. And he just says, oh, well, we're just going to do white because he doesn't know, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't know. He's not thinking about that. And again, he shouldn't know, right?
Right.
He shouldn't know what a dress color is. He should not be seeing that whatsoever, right? To be able to ask the questions that you don't know to ask, right? That's why you got to have somebody there for you, right? And which is why it's a big difference for like us versus online is that we've been doing this for almost 50 years.
Yeah.
We are multi-generational. All of us have been married ourselves. We've gone through the exact process that these people were going through, right? So we understand. We understand how important it is. We understand how to be there for you, right? It's not just your wedding. It's not just your wedding photos. It's also our reputation. We understand all that. That's why we are always there for you.
Yeah. High level of service, and it's not an accident that you've been in business this long.
Exactly.
Only businesses that really know what they're doing can hang on for such a long time.
Now you're just making me blush.
Well, we've always had great experience with you guys, and we're so excited to have had you on the show today. If people want to find out more about Brighton Tux, where would they go?
Yes, and thank you so much for doing this again with us. It's been a real pleasure. The biggest ways that you can find out more about us, honestly, a phone call is perfectly fine. We always like talking to people, right? You can go onto our website, brightontuxshop.net. There's a lot of our stuff on there as well, including an online catalog. So if you want to kind of peruse through colors and styles, more than welcome to do that. Although I always recommend to come in person to see the actual stuff, right? You know, colors are not always the same online as they are in person. But we also have multiple social media platforms. We have a Facebook, we have an Instagram, we also have a TikTok. I know, we're trying to be young and cool.
Well, there you go.
Makes sense, all right.
Right, all of which are just Brighton Tux Shop, so very easy to find us.
Wonderful. So for groomsmen, should they be calling you to make an appointment first or just come on in and chat with you?
Well, typically, if you're just coming in to get fitted, Monday through Friday, we don't necessarily need an appointment for that. If you're coming on a Saturday, we always recommend an appointment. It's just one of those things that Saturdays get clogged up. It gets pretty busy, right? Walk-ins are still welcome, but an appointment is best just because that way we can keep track of like timeline and make sure that we got some time allotted for you. Especially if you're bringing a group, please make an appointment on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So 3 or more is kind of our rule of thumb. If you got 3 guys or more, make an appointment for that. If it's just you, we can find ways to squeeze you in, but groups
Wonderful.
are always nice to know ahead of time.
Great.
Yep.
Very good. And we will include all of that information in the show notes. So especially if anyone's listening to this while they're driving, then they can reference that later.
Yes. So thank you so much for coming in today. We learned a lot, and we just, you're a great ambassador for the community and just an important part of Livingston County. So
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Being part of our county.
yes.
Thanks so much. And
Welcome
welcome to Livingston.